president of the Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria. That is the association that takes care of all the cinemas in Nigeria. I don't know if all the cinemas are members, but it's an umbrella body for exhibitors, that's cinema owners in Nigeria. And Mr. Patrick Lee is here. It's a pleasure to have you. And so from an exhibitor perspective, you know, I'm sure you heard the discussions yesterday. I just want you to throw in your own bit of contribution to those issues, the things that needs to be fixed between the producers and the distributors and the exhibitors here in Nigeria. Mike?
My name is Patrick Lee, and I'm the chairman of the Cinema Exhibitors Association. Currently, we have about 20 companies that are affiliated with the Cinema Exhibitors Association. And we are working towards getting a lot more, and in fact, every single cinema that is within the country registered with us at the association. We're also putting in place a number of procedures that we expect new cinemas to be able to follow. We want to be able to ensure that all our box office figures that you get are properly accountable, that they are realistic figures. We want to ensure that the quality that most people expect when they go to the cinemas is almost the same from cinema to cinema. We want to ensure that whoever is exhibiting a movie exhibits it in a certain format, and also that they are licensed to show those movies. So what we're doing is we're working with a number of different government agencies. We're working with new entrants into the market. We're working with existing entrants to ensure that when movies are being shown in the country, there's a certain level of expectation for every customer that walks through our doors. Sorry
to cut you short. How do you control that for Nollywood films, for locally produced films, to meet a certain standard?
Right. That's an interesting question, because in the last, one of the other panels that I had this morning, the issue of FIDAN came up, the Distributors Association. We've been trying to work with them, and we're quite happy that these distributors have now organized themselves into an association. What we have been trying to encourage them to do is ensure that the movies that come to the cinema, to some extent, the association should have some input into the distributors that are distributing these movies. And I'm glad to say that we had a meeting with them, I think it was last week, whereby the issue of quality control, in terms of what kind of sound productions do you expect, what picture qualities do you expect, what type of movies actually come into the cinema. Because as you all know, we only have about 200 screens currently, and that's not enough for a country as big as Nigeria. So the space is limited. And since we have a limited space, we want to ensure that what comes to the cinema is, to some extent, the type of films you would expect to see when you go to the cinemas. And because the distributors are the first point of contact with the producers of these movies, it's important that we work very closely with them to ensure that when movies are being introduced to us to exhibit in the cinema space, that these movies meet certain criteria that have been agreed. We're still working on those criteria. It's always a work in progress. But I'm glad to say that the foundations are now being set to ensure that whenever a movie comes into the cinema space, it's of a certain quality, and in fact, that quality continues to improve.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I want to hear from another exhibitor. Michael Ndiomu, you are also an exhibitor, and I want to ask he just talked about quality control. You think that is a major concern? Because I'm wondering, from an exhibitor perspective, what you want to do is to make money, right? So, and how do you now, how do you manage when there's so much to put out as an exhibitor on your screens? How do you manage that?
Okay.
Against quality.
Okay, I'll say a few things. Cinema, theatrical exhibition really is renting space. Okay, so you're leasing the space on your screen to content. That's the way I look at it. So which content will give me the highest utility for my screen? That's the question I ask myself. And based on the specific location where the cinema is, your audience preferences, which you can only do with experience on having been in that location for some time, and a few other things. That's the demographics in the area. What time of the day do certain kind of people come to the cinemas? So you look at all these things, in choosing the film. Last year, for example, there were 82 Nigerian films in the cinema. That's 82 films in 1 year. We have 52 weeks in the year, okay? So it creates a bit of a challenge, okay? Now, that's one way to look at it. So I look at what do I think the people in that locality would want to watch, okay? That's for me, is how I make the decision. Another way to look at it is this. What film should we put up on the screen that will generate the highest revenue? So whether it's my friend or not I'm agnostic. Whether I like the film is not really that relevant, okay? Because my personal preferences are not really that important. Certain kinds of movies are preferred in certain locations. Let me just put it that way. So a film that is loved in Lekki, for example, people in Igondo may not really get it. In Igondo, they call Avengers Afonja, for example. Okay? Certain language movies make a lot more money in some of those places, especially like the Southeast.
Okay.
So you look at what will work for this location.
What does your customers, what do they
yes, based on experience,
yes,
what do the customers want?
Yes.
What kind of patterns have we
So,
seen?
But
then the bottom line is
yes,
the content has to be entertaining.
Okay, great.
Okay, because another way to look at it is this. We have been growing the cinema audience to appreciate more and more of Nigerian films. Okay? Over the past 2 years, we've seen this high volume of content. Unfortunately, my personal view is that out of that content, not up to 10% have been good quality. So we're seeing a reversal of that enthusiasm, okay? In my location, for example, there have been several times people see a movie, halfway into the movie, they come out of the movie and say, give me my money back. Yes,
okay.
They come and say, give me my money back. And in some of these locations, people can get pretty excited. By excited, I mean violent.
Michael, please, we need to move on, please.
So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we need to move. Thank you so much. That's quite interesting. I want to talk to the producers that are sitting down here with us. You've heard about CEAN trying to put in measures for quality control. I want to believe that will be like a sieving process, right? Chini, the reason why I felt it was important for you to sit down here is because you have been making film that are not high budget, and you also have made quite a level of success with those not too high budget films that you have made, right? So, in terms of quality, do you think that the kind of, have you faced any challenge, like in terms of getting your distributors to accept the film? Because now they're trying to work together, right? Exhibitors and distributors are trying to work together. So what was your process, having a low budget film that made it to the cinema and then also was successful?
Okay, so my name is Chini Love Eze. I'm a Nollywood filmmaker. I'm going to attribute that to Mimi, right? Yes, and that's because, yes, Mimi is my distributor that works with Film One. I always say that
Not Moses.
No, but we have our bad times when I have to fight, and there's sometimes I've actually kept
Malice
with Moses a lot of times and we didn't speak to each other. But I would give that to Mimi, because I remember when I did my first cinema film, I'd done like maybe 12
Title,
made
please.
for
Title?
Hire a Man. I had done like maybe 10 made-for-TV films at the time, but that was my first cinema project, and I was a bit nervous. I knew I didn't have money, but I just wanted to go to the cinemas. And, we had heard from, where I was coming from that, cinema is like this cartel, in quotes. Cabal. And all of that. So but I'm a go-getter, so I just said, I was going to do this. So I remember it was a CD that I took to film one. I didn't even think I was going to have to submit a drive then. It was 2017. But the fact that, they took it and she saw prospects in it. There were a lot of corrections she made, but she saw...
Was it star-studded?
Well, at the time, no, it wasn't star-studded. It wasn't. The biggest star I had at the time was Ike Obuna, and he wasn't even like a big star. It was all new people. Do you get? But Moses didn't really believe in my film, and I don't blame him. He's actually, in for business. Do you understand? And I was because the way it is in the industry is you are either going to have to be like a proper studio that has enough funding or a big celebrity that has a lot of following. That's the only way you can really make money. If you look at all the movies that have made money, it's either the people behind it are, celebrities that have like a huge following or production companies that have like huge funding to promote. So there's really never been any, independent, some small girl from somewhere that just came to the cinemas. So Moses didn't really believe in the film, which I don't have a problem with it, but Mimi saw it and believed in it. And, there was this back and forth. But they gave me a chance, and in as much as there were a lot of things that we went back and forth on, and pretty much I remember on the opening weekend, and she said, "Oh, Chini, I'm in a meeting with my people after the release, and yes, my head is swelling because everybody's like, oh, you made a good choice." So, the entry wasn't really that difficult for me. And one thing about this thing is once you have broken that thing, and they've seen you as someone that knows what you're doing to some extent, they would give you a chance. So it was easier on my next project, to get cinema dates and all of that because, to some extent I've proven like, okay, maybe to an extent I know what I was doing, and that was it for, the entry. But I don't know if I have time to just say one or two negatives that I would like to talk about, and my own is, I know that when it comes to budgeting, especially because the budgeting for the production is usually, the producer and all of that. But when it now comes to the marketing, I've always stood my grounds, and I always say to my distributors, Film One, and when we have meetings, that see, it's not like I can go. I can't even go and borrow money, to promote this film. It's not like I can't, maybe go meet my parents or go to the bank or something to get loan. But sometimes I can't do all these things. But I always tell producers, your content has to be as big as your marketing budget. There's some movies that you do. No matter the amount, that's what I think, I might be wrong, but no matter the amount of promotion you do on it, you only get to a certain level. It happened with my last project, which released this year, Hire a Woman. I could have said, oh, you know what, I want to go all out because Hire a Man, did well. I was going to do all that, but I would have still landed at the same spot that I was, even if I had done all the billboards in Lagos, because people have to perceive your movie as that big budget film. And then when you now have enough marketing budget to back it up, then I think that's when you hit it. But if you have a small project, and it's happened to another film this year, it was not really a big film per se, but they spent so much money on marketing, and that movie made like 10 million naira in the box office. And if you make 10 million, you're probably going home with how much? So I feel like your product has to be very big. Your product has to be very big, and it's happened with the likes of AY and the Film One project and Moabudu and all of that. When you see their project, they sell it as really big projects, in terms of the cast, the aesthetics, the locations, everything. That's the only way Nigerians can buy it as a big project. But if you do a small project, you can't even, no matter the amount of money you spend. So my point with the distributors is, give producers a chance to say, you can't tell me, oh, okay, you have to spend a certain amount on P&A. Because if I spend this money, there's no guarantee I'm going to make it back. So, oh, Chini, you have to do outdoor. You have. It's not. They don't force you, but sometimes you just feel like when you have to, you just don't want. All this, maybe body language that you're not really understanding just because you need to do this and all of that. It's not spoken words, but you just want to maybe be in the good books. And I feel like a lot of new producers like me, will probably be pressured to doing all these things. They do billboards, BRT, do all of that, and their project is just a normal project. So at the end of the day, no matter what you do, I don't think it would hit that spot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's very, very important that you cut your coat according to your material. Yes. Thank you so much, Chini. And hire a man was successful. Hire a woman was not too successful, right? It was okay. And then your third project. Okay, June was her second project, and she didn't. It was okay. Black Panther timing affected June, so she didn't quite do well. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Mahmood, I would want you to also comment on the issue of on the issue of quality of content that is going into the cinemas. Do you see that as a challenge? 82 films in a year. Is it that Sin and the distributors need to cut down, put some regulations in place or some criteria in place to ensure that the right products get into the cinema because it affects everybody?
Thank you very much, Joma. We want to be clear about one thing. The cinema experience is a different ball game compared to other platforms. And when you say you want to present something for the cinema, there are certain expectations of the work that people look out for, right? I'm going to go with the Higher Man and the other films. The fact that Higher Man was successful in the market, cinematically, right, should not lend credence to the fact that we'll bring in materials. I'm not being critical of you, young lady, right? When you talk of films for the cinema, there are certain expectations, right, which should be premium, right? I watch Higher Man. I try to watch 1 or 2 Nigerian films every week. Moses can bear me witness, right? Because I want to follow trend. Moses is the one-ton fly here. Right? So, that's when a film is low budget, does not mean it should fall short of those expectations. Right? Higher Man, I tell you, there were so many things wrong with it. I'm not one to be critical of films. It was a film I love. The story. No. I love the story. No, please. I'm not being critical of her. Please. I'm not being critical of you. It's a story I loved. I actually watched it and took people to watch it. I know what I'm saying? But in terms of this expectation, that premium expectation, I didn't get. But I'm happy for her. I expect that, look, you up the ante from there. So in terms of quality that you asked, I think it behoves the exhibitors, maybe the distributors, because they get to the filmmaker before the exhibitor. They need to insist. Because our films fail to travel because of this failure. Right? Because we are successful locally, doesn't mean we will travel. And the bottom line for all of us, the exhibitor, the distributor, the filmmaker, is to make money. Filmmaking in Nollywood is for subsistence. Maybe that's why some people, I've always said that. That thing is original to me. Some people using it, they need to begin to pay copyright. Right? So, subsistence filmmaking, right? So, if that is what we want to follow, then there are certain levels that we should remain. But when you want to push it up there,
I'm taking my girlfriend to the cinema. It's 1.5 per ticket. 2 of us, 3,000. We buy popcorn. Maybe another 2,000. Are you know what I'm saying? Making 5. The transport money, if I don't have a car, you take Uber, right? Another 1,000, making 6,000. 7,000. And I don't want to go and have an experience that I could see on an online platform or on a terrestrial platform. So the quality has to be it. It has to be different. We are trying to up the ante. And that is the direction we should go.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to say something. First of all, when you talk of budget, when you mention you spend a certain amount, quote unquote, for a project, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what the project is worth, first of all. Because I feel like as a good producer, if you cannot get things with blood, then you don't know what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, if you put up the value of a film, it's necessarily not a low budget, but because I understand the market, if you do this, I'll give an instance. I filmed at Whispering Palms. It's really far in Badagry and the roads are bad. But I would go to Whispering Palms like once a week, because it felt like it was behind my house because I knew that I needed them to give me the place to film for free. My first bill to film at Whispering Palms was about 2.5 million, but I didn't have that money to give them. I would rather invest in something else. And I was going there every day because I wanted to get the place for free. So if I'm not putting that in my cost, does it necessarily mean? That's one. No, sorry. That's one. And then secondly, like you said, when you're taking off, you must know where you're landing. And I feel like as a producer, you know the kind of project and where you're taking it to. I have a YouTube channel. I do movies that go straight to my YouTube channel. They don't even make it anywhere else. I film and I put it on my YouTube channel. I have movies that I want to take international, right? And I have movies that I want to live here as a commercial film in Nigeria because I know that I don't have plans to take it abroad. I don't have to necessarily spend some certain amount because I will not make it back. And then thirdly, we filmmakers, when we watch movies, the kind of things we are looking for is not what the audience is looking for. Trust me, we filmmakers, we criticize our works the most, but we see, because we're filmmakers, we understand angles, we understand camera, so we are saying there's this. But people want to have a good time. Once you give them something that makes them have a good time, so far they don't come out angry. And they can spread the word, which is what makes you make money, and that's making a film.
I think
that's business.
You got it wrong.
I'm just saying.
You didn't get the crux. She didn't get the crux.
1 minute, sir, yes. So I can talk to Moses.
Yeah, the crux of my statement is that one house. The crux of my intervention is this. I'm not talking about the budget. The budget is not my concern. There are lovely films being made. Take, for instance, Hollywood, that we all take as a word. Get Out. What's the budget of Get Out compared to many films produced there? It's not the money. I said the experience, the cinematic experience, right? I'm not talking, like I said, people say I shouldn't say it. The sound and all that the audience loved it, fine. I said the story, quite good, lovely story. Right?
So cinematic experience, sir, is it the technical soundness?
Everything. It's a totality from the story. It's a totality.
Okay. All right.
Are you get what I'm saying?
All right. Thank you, sir.
So,
thank you. Okay.
Right.
Because
was a response. Yeah, she's saying that, she was trying to do this. So if it's not going to give that experience, where I'm going to spend close to 5,000 naira minimum, with my girlfriend or spouse, I don't think it should be there.
Thank you. Walter, since you are sandwiched between two of them, I need to, and everybody's waiting for you. I was asking Moses, where is the balance? Do you understand?
No.
Okay.
Where is the balance between what?
Between making quality films that give you the value and the cinematic experience as against people who are also, like Chini, who are upcoming and who need to be given opportunities. That's my question.
This is a tricky one. It's a very tricky one. We've tried it a couple of times. It's a very tricky one, simply because I don't want to incriminate people. Moses has had a hard time already. Oh, did I say that out loud? No, basically, it's come to a point where in the Nigerian space, the cinema space, the cinemas have an idea of the kind of film that's going to sell. They have an idea, I say, not that they know it's going to sell, because you don't know until you've tried it out.
Is that a problem?
Nobody knows. It's not a problem. I'm just trying to give some explanation to this. What Chini has done is basically go with the trend. So in that trend, you don't really need to talk about what Mr. Mahmood is talking about, which is the cinematic experience. Because at the end of the day, what Nigerian audiences want to do is go in, come out, and not feel that they've wasted their money. And it's entertainment that sells. But the problem is that once you make your amount of money in the cinema, and let's think about it, The Wedding Party, highest grossing film. How many people was that in total? How many watched the film? Moses, how much? 300 people? 400,000 people. Okay. The market outside the cinema is in millions. So when you're now looking for just a small piece and putting all your eggs in that basket, when you now leave that space and try and sell it, then it becomes a problem, because the same thing that they're looking for is not what they're going to get. Or it's not, you're going to find it hard to sell your movie out. And those are the kind of movies, the cinematic movies, that Mr. Mahmood is talking about. But at the same time, to make those films, you need to spend money. But then you make those films and spend money in the Nigerian cinema, you're not going to make that money back by the extra increment. I had an argument the other day when I said, why are distributors always trying to egg producers on to produce bigger and better films? Not that we don't want to do it, but show us how we make the money back. Why should she make more money? Why should she put an extra 30 million in her film to make the same money that she made last on the film? She spent 30 less. That's the problem. But visually, you'll see it. So that's where I see.
So what would you call your own? So
yeah.
Now to you now, what are the issues that you think needs to be fixed?
Hey! Oh, sorry, let me bring my book out. No, how do these problems fixed? I think they should be, first and foremost, I think, more distributors.
Is there a monopoly of distribution?
Hey, words in my mouth, stop it, please. More distributors, because I think what we have right now is more of like a sort of like an egg timer shape, where we have sort of a wide base of filmmakers, then you have a smaller base of distributors, then you have a wide base of cinemas. So I think with more distributors, I will find someone who can distribute my film. You will find someone who can distribute a cinematic film. And they will concentrate on that. They will specialize on this. If it's not the kind of film that's going to work for me, I'm not going to take it. But everyone has a chance to make whatever film they want and find someone to distribute that type of film.
Okay. So that's it for you.
It's not it, but I see you're trying to cut me off because Moses has kicked you in the leg. Say, they spoil my market.
No. Just summarize, and then I'll go to Moses.
No, it's okay. I'll counter Moses. Thank you.
Okay, Moses actually... Moses, do you think we need more distributors?
Sorry, can I just say something before you go to Moses?
Okay.
From the exhibitor's perspective, there are certain things that we believe are now becoming very important for someone who is paying to watch a movie. The sound on that movie. Most cinemas now run from between 5.1, 7.1, maybe even up to 11.1 surround sound. Now, you don't expect that if a movie is coming to the cinema and I have a 5.1 or a 7.1 surround sound, the sound only comes from the screen itself. Now, the customers notice, they know. It's not something that we can continue to bargain with and say, oh, I've got sound on my movie. No, these are expectations from the customers these days because that's what they're paying for. They know what surround sound is like. Secondly, picture quality. Now, if you're looking at picture quality, your color, your whatever it is that makes your picture great, on a small screen, it might look fantastic. But by the time you project it on an 8 or 10 meter or 12 meter screen, the picture is not as great as you think it is. and the customers notice. So these are little things that we're trying to work with the feeder and the distributors to say, look, films that come to the cinema, there are certain minimum expectations now that the customers have. And if we don't meet those expectations, the customer will decide whether that movie, they like it, they love it. That's a different matter. But you can't come to a cinema without meeting some of these technical things. Security. Movies now have to be encrypted. We are very wary of piracy. So all these issues are there. And if you as a producer cannot meet these technical specifications, then we already have a problem. We are not moving the industry forward as we would like to.
Thank you,
So
sir.
Moses,
Thank you. Moses, just before that, I just want to mention that after the launch, please don't miss the technical session by Hiventi. It's very important. That is why they are here, because we've identified some of these issues that he's talking about, and they flew in just to come and see how they can help producers understand the technical side that will help them even beyond Nigeria. Moses.
All right, thank you. I think with the quality, conversation, everyone on the panel have made very good submissions, and one cannot disagree with it. My own take is, as I've always said, we're a product of the evolution in the industry, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, we've had, practical cases or empirical evidence of films that have not been at par technically and have grossed, and have made and have done very well commercially. Like I said, fortunately or unfortunately, that's happened, and therefore people can reference those, successes and maybe use them as templates. But what we're beginning to find is, like Walter talks about, you limit the opportunities for your film beyond this market. That it's tolerable in the market and you succeeded in the market, that doesn't then mean that you can access other platforms. And that's why I take Dami's point about, Dami Legbe's question about giving people more information, because that technical quality is becoming very, very, very important now. I think Mr. Mahmoud even makes a stronger point about the cinematic, side of things, where everything about, the shots and how it's composed and how it looks, is also very, very much part of the experience. All those things I think sometimes are subjective. I think that there are some things around the technical quality, the sound design, some, basic things. Our films are failing QC by the second, even the best of them. So it's hard to sit here. 2 years ago, I will sit here and argue every point that Mr. Mahmoud or Walter will say, and say, for every point you make about films, I'll tell you Ghost and the Tout, Alakada Reloaded, The Vendor. I'll mention a lot of films, Brother Jeku. I'll mention a lot of films that have succeeded and they've not had to be, of a technical standard. But the truth is, as we've evolved, and as our films are now being, demanded by global platforms, we're falling short. So therefore, and I hope I'm not being political, I'm just saying it as it is. So, we look at distribution.
Witness.
Thank you. We look at distribution holistically. So it will be wrong of me to say, we look at cinema alone, and because it's possible and it's worked, get on with it. No. Some of those films I've mentioned, we're struggling to fix them now in QC. So I feel like that quality conversation, we have to pay attention to it. But above all, the entertainment value. I think that's where a lot of filmmakers miss it. No, and we've gone away from this genre conversation of make comedies. Look, the entertainment value, and I hope that we can go and research what does entertainment value mean. And I think everything, even up to the technical aspects, I think they all contribute to the entertainment value. And thank you. Please, you can join in that. It's very, very good. Thanks. I'll take it. I'll take it. And don't worry, my colleagues at the back there, we can sign on new clients, yeah? So, so I think that entertainment aspect of things, we need to get right. We need to understand what piques the average Nigerian cinema goer. What piques the average Nigerian viewer? I will round up. That's very, very important. And I think that's the balance we're not getting. Nobody's saying do not attempt, a different genre. We saw it with King of Boys.
But look at the entertainment value. Look at what people are saying and speaking about it. Go into the, to the cinema screen and see what they are reacting to. Understand this audience. That's very, very, very key. To address the point that Walter said, so I don't forget, about needing more distributors, it's an open market. I actually believe in competition, but let's also be very careful. It's a 200-screen market. You want to maintain and uphold standards, right? We're talking about uphold standards. You want to ensure the right content comes to market. You want to ensure the right people. We said we already have an integrity deficit in the industry, right? How do we do that without having some kind of standardization or professional bodies? And that's the reason why we're setting this. And look, it's very easy. Distribution, getting into distribution, there are low barriers to entry. Anybody today can just say, is it not just to put standee and it's not just to book films into cinema? It's a little beyond that. So mine would be tread with caution. To be honest, right now, for 200 screens, I would not advocate for just an open door policy to all distributors. I would say you would have to go through a rigorous system to prove yourself, and ensure that you are doing the best job so that we don't make it too hard for ourselves. You just, fill up the calendar, and then would have even rogue cinemas that you're supplying to because you just want to quickly make money. We've worked very hard, by God's grace, to get to where we are, and there's a big future ahead of us.
Thank you so
much. So let's be cautious about our next stage of growth.
Thank you, Moses. Today is definitely a better day than yesterday.
I actually want to, you see, no.
Okay.
I think we seem to be speaking maybe as regards the challenges facing distributors, particularly now, right? I think we need to look at our challenge with distributors, with exhibitors, really, which is one of the reasons why I accepted to be here, right? In terms of the exposure, some of the conditions they give for our films to be out there. One, right, dovetailing from what Moses said as regards the number of cinemas, we had limited, yes. And there are films that don't take off well. The first week, they may not have the best of audience, but gradually they grow. So word of mouth and all that, even if the publicity by the producer because he's handicapped by finance or something, but over time, I've had that experience with my film before. So cinemas also need to find out how they can seek a balance. It's not just because a film gets there 1 week, they reduce the number of days, the number of screening time they are giving it. And before the end of the second week, the film is out. And people still go there and say, oh, is this film I want to see? But it's not there anymore. Some films take off very slowly.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
That's one point.
Okay.
Another point is this, right? I'm sure some of my friends here, they know. We barely have 200 screens. I still believe very, very strongly, right, that take home of these exhibitors is too much, the percentage, right? We want to compare ourselves with other clients where they have thousands of screens. We're talking of just 200. And you still take the chunk of the money. In most situations, you don't contribute. We go through the same vagaries of challenges that we have in the country as business people. But I think we need to, because the industry is, us as filmmakers now, we don't have our own voice yet, so to speak.
Association.
I just don't want to use the word association. We don't have our own cabal like the distributors have, the exhibitors have. I think a time will come where we have to challenge that even the 50%. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And the distributor is still going to take is between 10 and 12%.
Thank you, sir.
It's something they need to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Walter wanted to say something. Walter?
No.
He wants to react.
We're cabal now.
Yes. Hello. Yeah. Just, I wasn't quite happy with the way Moses or Film 1 or things. No, I say Moses, but I'm looking at Kenny over here as well. He's folding my hand. Kind of switched the focus of these distributors, more distributors to service the producers, to more distributors to service the limited number of cinemas. Now, I'm talking about we have so many producers wanting to make films, have films they want to put out, and we're all queuing up for Moses and film, or for a very few. So there should be an option for us to go to other places. It doesn't have to go to cinema, but it's a distribution. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, we spend most of the time talking about the quality of the product we produce, how the thing can, where I want us to talk about the quality of the service we receive from the distributor. That is my problem. So for example, we have screen times that we get 2 days before our film comes out. 2 days. But meanwhile, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million naira spent on P&A. So I don't understand how we would want to market our film 2 days. Yeah, they might say the system is a bit choked, they can't do this, but that's the problem I'm saying. Look at the value of the service.
All right.
That's one
That's
question.
then.
That's one.
Not done.
The second question is just the one for everyone else. We hear about all this. I want to know when, at which situation will the problem be down to the distributor? When is it the distributor's fault if a film does not make successful? Because anytime we hear this thing, it's always the producer didn't spend money this, he didn't do that, the film is not sweet. So in this wonderful ecosystem that we have, when can we say, right, distributor, you dropped the ball on this? Because I can't see it.
Michael, your chairman is here, so he's going to respond on your behalf. Yes.
I want to help him. I'm not going to.
Okay.
Thank you. The chairman is there.
Yes, chairman, please, can you
Michael,
respond?
Do you want to make something?
No, Michael can say something.
I don't want to give him.
All right. Just please, in 1 minute, please. Please.
Okay.
Yes, 1 minute, yes.
Okay. I think I'll just talk on some of the things you've read. Sharing ratio. Out of 100 naira box office, 10% first goes off the top to the government. Okay, and it's on the balance that whatever the distributor had agreed with the exhibitor in the confirmation of booking sheet. After that, there's still another 10% withholding tax. So essentially, government takes out first 18% of the money. Okay, so and then there's a sliding ratio. So how that works is the longer the exhibitor keeps the film in the cinema, the more goes to the exhibitor. Okay, remember the last time I made a comment, I talked about screen utility. Okay, if I keep your film longer, it means I'm taking space from another film.
Okay.
That's that. So you are saying even that should be discussed, and well, we can discuss from now till my face turns blue.
Thank you.
But
So,
the reality
let's
is,
finish with the exhibitors.
so let me just finish. Okay. But the reality is, the only way to change a lot of things in business is creating a competitive advantage. That's usually the only way to change things, okay? And until the business dynamics change to a point where the numbers work. Right now, I can assure you the numbers don't even work, okay? The numbers don't work. A lot of exhibitors, I can say it here, a lot of exhibitors are living month to month. A lot of exhibitors are living month to month.
I think producers need also know that. Like, it's not like all rosy, all good,
there
all
are
fine.
challenges. See, the economic situations, right? The economic situations are the same in the entire country. So it's not like exhibitors are living in a different country
Paradise.
From the rest of the business community in Nigeria. Yesterday, for example, some local government people came and shut down my cinema. And we asked why, and they said there was some levy that they want to charge. And so I'm saying this happens, these same things that happen to everybody.
To other businesses,
businesses,
not
yes.
peculiar.
No.
To
I'm not saying it's
exhibitors.
peculiar to exhibitors. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The same issues we have on security, the same issues we have on pilfering, the same issues we have. It's the same
issue.
everywhere.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry. Yes.
I wanted to then answer,
I want to answer.
Walter's issue with
we need
just
to-
2 minutes. Just 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Okay.
1 minute. Right now we have several distributors, and you say you want more. Personally, I agree. I think we should have more. As we have more, what is simply going to happen is a differentiation based on the service received by producers.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
better distribution companies will begin to stand out based on the service they provide.
Thank you so
And
much.
eventually, that differentiation will end up reverting to the
the
situation
normal-
where a lot of the smaller distribution companies will close down.
Okay. Thanks. Chini.
My question is to the exhibitors. As a producer, it takes you from production to putting your movie in the cinemas
We're
almost
in
a year.
Q&A now, okay?
So why do you, after waiting 1 year, investing and waiting 1 year to get your movie in the cinemas, why does it take you almost 4 months to get paid? Or 3 months? Because I always say I have sold movies at the box office and people pay cash, right? And after you pay cash, I don't know whether there's somewhere else the money goes to, because I know that the distributor maybe uses like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do like reconciliation of the budget, and then of the money rather received. And after that, I don't know why, to me, I don't know why you have to wait another 3 months. 2 months. The thing is, my distributors, I'm going to give it to, I'm very unbiased here. I'm going to give it to Film One, because I've worked with some other distributors, and it took my friends, in as much as 2 months is still a long time to wait to get paid for, a movie that was
Film
paid
One
for
is 2
cash.
months. 2
No,
months.
they are the
And that's the
closest to
shortest.
even, yes.
2
The rest
months.
will take 6 months to pay for something that was paid for cash, and then that means you have to tie your funds for a year and 6 months. It doesn't even make any sense.
Kene, well done.
Maybe.
So,
Maybe
exhibitors, is there something else that, where maybe the money goes to that we
they
don't know?
fix it maybe for you.
Thank you for all the questions, and I'll try to answer some of them.
And after that, we
Let me
have
start
questions.
with Mahmoud's point that with regards to movies that are possibly slow moving. That was one of the issues we had, or one of the points that was often made, I'd say 2-3 years ago. And for us in the cinema exhibitions fair, what we decided to do was to get a reputable company that would be able to record our figures, and we would then put them out there for the public. In order to ensure that when people go around saying that this movie has made 80 million, 90 million, 100 million, or no millions, we can verify it. So we introduced ComScore. Now, when you look at the data on ComScore, there are very few movies that you can point to whereby the first week is not a determining factor. I agree, movies can be slow moving, but what do you define by slow moving? If a movie makes 7 million in the first week, do you say it's slow moving? If a movie makes another movie, same week, makes 1 million. So it really does depend, but the data is there. You can check. Now, there are few movies that have come through the system in the last 12 months that we can actually say are slow-moving movies. The last one that I remember was probably King of Boys. But the problem with King of Boys, it was unique to any other Nollywood movie. This was the first movie that was about 3 hours. There's been no other Nollywood movie that has been 3 hours. So for us in exhibition, it was a logistical nightmare. What do you do with a Nollywood movie that is 3 hours long, 3 hours, 5 minutes? In fact, the first version that I saw was 3 hours, 40 minutes. It got cut down to 3 hours, 5. Now you can imagine the logistical nightmare a cinema has in trying to schedule time for that movie, where most other Nollywood movies had been between 1 hour, 40 minutes and 2 hours, 15 minutes, maximum.
Thank you,
Now,
sir.
the second issue he mentioned is when you look at the issue of the sharing formula. The sharing formula, as Michael has tried to explain, there's also taxation within that sharing formula. It's not something that we control. However,
And distribution,
However,
distributor commission, right?
yes, it is something that we as a body are also looking into. We want to engage government and talk to them. We say, look, if you want to grow this industry, fine, you can try and give us low interest loans, but you must also look at where you're taking the money back from. How much of it can you leave with us so that we can help grow this industry? Because there's a value chain. It's not the exhibit. The exhibitors are simply the end of the market in terms of the cinema business. But there's also the distributor, there's the producer, there are the actors and actresses, there are the stagehands that are involved in this business. We want to grow the industry, and we cannot grow the industry if government does not give us some form of rebate. 5-6 years ago, every cinema that was on 35mm had to go to digital. There was no government help. We borrowed money to be able to ensure that that happened. Today, we're reaping off the benefits. But someone had to pay for it, and it was the exhibitor. So we're trying to grow this market. And then when Chini's question, when she asked, okay, why does it take so long? It's something we're working on. One of the last meetings we had at the CAN, I put it through to members that, look, we're receiving a few complaints. Not many, but we are receiving a few complaints of how long it's taking to make payments. And we are encouraging our members to ensure that money that is due to the distributors is actually paid on time. There may be a few of them that default, but we always encourage producers or even the distributors, let's know those people who are defaulting or those people who are struggling, and let's try and find a solution to this problem. Because at the end of the day, if the money doesn't come out fast enough, it's going to be difficult for the producers to make the next movie.
Thank you, sir.
So we're working on it, and we're sure that we'll be able to develop it and make sure it's a lot better for everyone.
Thank you so much. I also just want to add that, is it possible to put a penalty to exhibitors who are defaulting? Is it something as an association?
As an association at present, the way we are structured, no. We don't have a penalty system, but we can give advice. We work on the basis of...
Do you think advice is enough?
Well, yes, to some extent, because we've come a long way.
How do you enforce advice? Isn't it possible?
Enforcing advice, okay. Right now we're working, for example, if you look at the setup of cinemas, we're currently working with the Censors Board to ensure that certain standards, so nobody just walks into the Censors Board and says, look, I want to set up a cinema. No, there has to be certain criteria that you're expected to meet before you set it up. So we may not be the ones directly, but we can influence those who have the authority to ensure that these things do happen. And that's what we're working on trying to do.
I have my questions, but let me leave it. Let's take questions from the audience. And panelists, please also be very direct in answering your questions, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Willis Kedem. I'm a filmmaker. I wanted to add to what Chine asked. Also, I've never gotten you talked about withholding task. I've never gotten any, what's it called? Evidence, yeah, because they asked me at the embassy and stuff when I want to do audit, when they want to audit my company. Where's the tax? Where's the evidence? Fine, I have a TIN number. My company has a TIN number, but there's no evidence to say I've paid so and so tax.
In the payment you received, there's no evidence.
There's nothing. Tax. They just put there. This was deducted for withholding tax, but there's no evidence.
Okay, please, we need receipt, proof.
From my,
tax.
Yeah, all the films. I know I'm still demanding for the one that was released last year. I've not gotten anything. So I want to ask,
who is your distributor?
The one for last year was Film One, yeah.
Okay, Film One.
Moses.
Can I...
Thank you.
Can I just respond quickly to the exhibitor point, from an exhibitor point of view? It's a very interesting question because it also impacts on us as exhibitors, whereby when we pay withholding tax, it's not necessarily specified. So what we're trying to do in working with the distributors is to say, look, when you send us a bill for withholding tax, you tell us which company we should be putting the withholding tax payments in the name of. And with FIDAN, we're going to work with them on that so that in future, going forward, when exhibitors are making payments, they will make payments in the name of a particular company, pass the paperwork through to the distributor who will then forward it to you. So we are working on that.
Thank you so much.
After that,
you know, they are all... There's a mic, sir, just by you.
Already with the audience. Yes, some of the cinemas, right, they are getting quite funny in terms of rundown, to use the right word here, right? You go, the cinematic experience, I'm using that. You go to watch a film, and the pictures you hardly see. Not the fault of the film, right? The sound, the projectors are bad. As a movie that you know is probably maybe 5.1, you're just getting stereo. So, Silverbird and some part of film 1, I can say. I will say so. You are my friend, Surulere. I've been at a cinema where rat fell on my lap. Yes. So, seriously.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
It's a cinematic rat.
It's for something like that. It's part of the remit of the association members. We have an executive committee, and one of the things that we are doing is we are visiting cinemas. One, we are ensuring that when Census Board registers them, there are certain qualities that are met at the beginning. And as we go along, we are visiting cinemas to see whether or not they are getting the experience. Yes, of course, I agree with you, but it's something we are currently working on.
Thank you.
To ensure that.
So cinemas also have quality control issues. Yes, so it's very important that they also look into quality control issues. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have to end this here now. Thank you. Please, straight to the point. You have the mic already, please.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly, I want to talk about, I think going forward.
You're talking about our question?
It's a question.
Okay,
yeah.
please.
And we're talking about real issues, so I'm going to share my own personal observation. One, actors.
Question, please. Don't
I understand.
share.
I understand.
Just question.
Okay.
Please.
Quickly, I think going forward, if we can have actors attend summits like this, because one, I just did my first feature for cinema, and an actor was telling me he wants 10% of my box office, and I'm like, how? With the struggles. So basically, just as we think our exhibitors are enjoying, our actors think producers are enjoying.
Okay.
Actually, then, like the reason why we're having growth in Hollywood basically is because the actors take these movies like their own. You see Tara G.P. Henson posting what men want as though she invested in the film, but yeah, you have to crawl.
Actors are not here. Actors are not here. Please, can you just direct the people here?
Basically, we have to crawl to beg actors to even post on social media. Basically, then to the distributors, I want to understand something. You say you are for Nollywood, more for Nollywood. But I went to the cinema recently to see Blessing Egbe's. She doesn't know me, so this is no promotion whatsoever. Blessing Egbe's film, 10 Virgins. And I don't want to mention the cinema, I went to the cinema and it was showing a film that actually got to the cinema that they were showing for just one showtime. And you have a Hollywood film showing for almost 6 times in a day.
Okay.
So I don't understand how we are for Nollywood and we are not for Nollywood.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moses, quickly, please. He has already explained that, right? Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Good day, everyone. My name is Moses Iwanga. I want to bring us back to this to this tax issue because it's really fraudulent. Yeah, it is. She talked about withholding tax from the previous year. I have withholding tax payments that I've made 4 years ago that has not been returned. I've not gotten any documents to the effect of payments to the government by cinemas. Why is this happening? And we're talking about millions of naira that we cannot trace. We don't know what or where the payment has been made, and it just goes into the air and it's gone.
Thank you.
I think we need to talk about this issue. And we're not just talking about withholding tax, we're talking about entertainment tax. We should know who is taking this entertainment, because it's still part of money is generated from the revenue of our films. Entertainment tax, VAT, there should be documents stating where these monies have been paid, and we should have copies of them.
Because why this is very important.
Let's just focus on this issue first. There are others too. There are so many other issues that are affecting us with the distribution chain of our movies. But I think this is naira and kobo right here. Withholding tax, millions of naira gone into thin air. Where are these monies? We need to get them out. Thank you.
So, okay, Moses, very well said. And it speaks to the point I'm saying that, you know, and please, I'm not using that as a decoy on sanitization of the industry and the integrity deficit issue. But these are the things that I can't speak for other, you know, colleagues, but I know we strive to do things right. Sometimes, you know, maybe we've made mistakes in the past, but that's why we're also creating these associations so that we can be held responsible and held accountable.
No, I've just been told by some of your people here that the payment is made by the cinemas, not even distributors.
Yes.
Yes. So
So we're working with.
It makes it more burdensome.
It's a hard. We can't resolve it here. It's an issue. I acknowledge. It's an issue that the TAN and FDAN are looking at critically. It's an issue that even comes from us understanding, you know, the taxes and the tax systems, but we are mandated by law to make the deductions.
Okay.
All right. So it's something that we're working on, and at the right time, and very soon, so the associations would meet with the producers to address this issue properly.
Mandated by law to make deductions, but are the deductions being made? We are going to close on that note. I want to say thank you.